Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, let's dive into a piece of modern internet folklore that is so tense and honestly so unexpectedly hilarious, you're literally never going to look at a fender bender the same way again. A story originally recounted by a woman named Melanie Johnson, it kicks off with just a mundane roadside accident. But then, it rapidly spirals into this high-stakes standoff full of mistaken identity, totally blind arrogance, and ultimately some pretty brutal retribution. So I want you to picture this tense, hushed scene. We've got this vulnerable grandfather driving along, just minding his own business, when suddenly, bang, he accidentally crashes his car into this super expensive ride. Now, normally, this just means awkwardly swapping insurance info and maybe letting out a few frustrated sighs. But in this story, that minor collision kicks off a terrifying, totally unpredictable chain of events. The power dynamic shifts instantly, creating this vacuum where logic completely vanishes and pure, unadulterated aggression just takes over. So, let's break this down starting with part 1, the inciting collision. The owner of the expensive car jumps out and he is completely losing his mind in a fit of sudden violent rage. And the very first thing he does, he demands a number. 10,000. He demands 10 grand in cash right there on the spot. I mean, this astronomical dollar amount instantly jacks the stakes up to life-threatening levels. This isn't a traffic dispute anymore. It's a brazen extortion attempt going down in broad daylight. Give me $10,000 cash, or I'm going to beat you to a pulp. This perfectly captures the terrifying wall of aggression the grandfather was just slammed against. The guy is absolutely not listening to reason. He's using sheer physical intimidation to bully an older man. You can almost feel that suffocating tension, right? That sheer panic most of us would feel when trapped by an unhinged, violent stranger towering over us with absolutely no way out. Which brings us to part 2, the $10,000 threat. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of cowering, the grandfather makes this desperate, calculated play. Faced with a threat to his life, he looks right at the angry driver and says, "Well, relax, buddy. I don't have that kind of money, but let me call my grandson. He trains dolphins." Now, think about how incredibly jarring that sentence is in the middle of a violent shakedown. Why bring up dolphins? Well, in a high adrenaline situation, throwing out a totally unexpected, harmless image, like training dolphins, completely disrupts the attacker's momentum. It's a bizarre red herring, but it buys the grandfather just enough precious time to pull out his phone. This leads right into part 3, calling the dolphin trainer. But the aggression just keeps escalating. The demands morph into threats. And then we hit the point of no return. The angry driver violently snatches the phone directly out of the old man's hand. This physical breach of personal space propels the whole altercation to a really dangerous new height, where the antagonist starts taking his blinding rage out on the poor guy on the other end of the line. Completely blinded by his own fury, the wealthy car owner blindly extends his violent ultimatum to the unknown voice on the phone. "So you train dolphins? Well, your grandfather just smashed into my car. You better bring me $10,000 or I'm going to beat him up and you too." The sheer arrogance here is just staggering. He is so utterly confident in his physical dominance that he's perfectly willing to threaten a complete stranger who supposedly, works at an aquarium. He truly believes he holds all the cards. And here is where we enter part 4, 15 minutes of suspense. But the voice on the other end, the grandson, he doesn't yell back. He doesn't panic at all. Instead, he responds with this chillingly calm agreement. "Okay, give me 15 minutes and I'll be there." Click. The phone hangs up, and a grueling 15-minute countdown begins ticking away on the side of the road. Minute 1 brings the ultimatum. Then we hit that silent wait around minute 8. Just imagine that heavy, suffocating silence. The angry car owner pacing around, feeling victorious, completely believing he just extorted a terrified family. The grandfather quietly waiting by his busted car. The tension is palpable. It's a literal cinematic standoff. The clock runs out. The tension hits its absolute peak. And right on cue, exactly 15 minutes later, a Jeep pulls up to the crash site. The wait is finally over. The dolphin trainer has arrived to pay the debt. Well, at least that's what the antagonist thinks. But it's not a guy in a wetsuit carrying a bucket of fish. It is 10 men. 10 men jump out of that Jeep. Instantly and terrifyingly, the power dynamic totally flips. The man who thought he was the apex predator of this roadside dispute suddenly finds himself vastly outnumbered and completely, hopelessly outmatched. The arrogant antagonist faces some sudden, overwhelming retribution. According to the legend, these 10 guys jump out and absolutely beat the heck out of the expensive car owner, right there on the asphalt. It's a stunning, violent reversal of fortune. The bully is suddenly and overwhelmingly facing the sheer chaos of his own consequences after threatening an old man and demanding a massive cash ransom. Which finally brings us to Part 5, the Navy SEAL twist. Meanwhile, right in the middle of this absolute chaos unfolding on the street, the brother, the grandson who was on the phone, calmly detaches himself from the fray. See, the arrogant driver was expecting a dolphin trainer. He expected someone he saw as entirely non-threatening, someone he could easily push around. But the brutal reality? He was talking to a Navy SEAL trainer. The grandfather hadn't said seals as in the cute marine mammals that balance beach balls on their noses. He meant SEALs, as in the elite United States Navy sea, air, and land teams. So the brother walks over to his grandfather, totally unfazed by the brutal retribution happening right behind him, and delivers the ultimate punchline to this whole gripping saga. "Granddad, I train Navy SEALs, not dolphins." Delivering this line completely deadpan provides the perfect release of tension for this story. It takes all that dark, suspenseful buildup of an extortion attempt and resolves it with a hilarious, perfectly timed misunderstanding. The grandfather's innocent phrasing accidentally laid a trap that this arrogant driver walked right into. Which leaves us with this final thought. Could a single misheard word be the most dangerous thing in the world? I mean, this story perfectly captures how easily a tiny bit of miscommunication mixed with a massive unchecked ego can literally bring a Jeep full of 10 angry men straight to your bumper. It's a brilliant reminder that when you jump to conclusions and lead with pure aggression, you really never know who is on the other end of the line. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.